All right, welcome to episode 1 of A Stream of Consciousness. I'm going to tell you why I named it that in a moment, but when I was younger, I always wanted to have a talk show of sorts where I could bring on interesting guests, celebrities, actors, athletes, wherever, and uncover their stories and extract their best ideas and give them to the world. I named it A Stream of Consciousness because I want it to be more like a conversation where we're in flow rather than an interview. My guests are going to be from completely different walks of life because my aim is to show you that it all connects, whether it's the UFC fighter in training or it's the artist in the studio. All of our paths converge when we're trying to elevate your mind, body and soul. And no, this isn't a typical podcast. I'm aiming to make it dynamic and fluid where I can travel around the world, meet guests and do specific activities with them to uncover more depths of their mind.
So if you're here from episode 1, please subscribe. The guests are only going to get bigger and better and the gems waiting to be uncovered are going to be priceless. All right, episode 1, we're here today at Box Centric in Knightsbridge and we're going to train a little bit and speak to my first guest here. Hamza is an online content creator who has changed the lives of millions of young men, I think that's fair to say. And he has a very raw and authentic approach to self-improvement. You may love him or you may hate him. Hamza, thank you for coming on, bro.
Thank you for having me.
Can you tell the people a little bit about yourself, for those who don't know you?
My name is Hamza. I'm a cult leader. I decided a few years ago that I was going to grow on social media, but I didn't just want people to just watch me yap along. I wanted guys to actually take the advice that I was giving out. I wanted them to implement the things, to go into the real world, to make sacrifices like I've done, go through the same kinds of hardship that developed me. And so my videos are very polarizing, very straightforward, critical. If you're easily offended, you really don't want to be watching my videos. But if you're a young, masculine man who wants to take over the world, the kind of messaging that I give out where I look directly to you and say that you're a pussy, you're weak, you're a bitch if you don't do these masculine traits, it has changed a lot of lives. One thing I will correct you with is I haven't really changed anyone's life. It's more that the young men who watch the videos are able to change their own lives, but it's just that they needed the initial source of inspiration, the thunderbolt of masculine criticism, which we lack in the modern day.
All right, so let's start there. I see you as someone that tells the truth, right? When everyone went right into hyper edits, fast music, quick cuts, you went left into 30-minute raw videos talking to the camera. But we're going to touch on that later. I want to talk about the truth. Like we said, you're a bit polarizing, but do you think that's the most effective way to communicate the truth? And do you think that's the price you have to pay?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
In the age of social media, you're not going to get listened to if you're not polarizing. Otherwise, you're like these limp dick therapists who will say, oh yeah, therapy may it may help you. Congratulations, you've lost me. If you tell me anything may help me, I don't care anymore. Most guys don't care anymore. Everyone's busy. Everyone's got their own problems. Everyone's getting bullied in high school and they're eating seed oils and they've got mental health problems and the girl's not texting them back. You need to be able to tell someone this will save your life. This is what you need to do. You're a pussy if you don't do this. Yeah, it's polarizing. And there'll be people who disagree with my message. Those people are just insane. If you disagree with the message of self-improvement, that exercise will save your life, it's like, that's basically insanity. But when you speak in such an extreme like that, it really sticks into people's minds. Because I think back to my younger self, and if I told him, like, in a cute way, he could try these things and it may help, he wouldn't have listened to me. But I look to the camera and I speak to him in this aggressive way with full conviction. Self-improvement will save your life. Speaking to a girl like this will attract her. Spending time with your friends in this way will improve your mental health. It's polarizing, but it gets the result that we wanted.
Yeah, you know, when I first wrote that question, I was trying to think of characters in history that were not polarizing. I couldn't come to a conclusion, right? Even in the religious figures, in their time, they were still polarizing. You know, they still had they were going against the grain. So I agree with you. I agree with your take. All right, so we're going to train a bit, and I've got a new segment on the show. I'm going to call it Hamza isms. These are things that you said, your philosophy of life, things that you live by. I'm going to read them back to you and see if you still agree with them while we train. So let's just do some pull-ups and dips while you train, right? First thing you said, first Hamzaism. Just stare at the wall for half an hour and you'll learn a lot about yourself.
Absolutely. Embrace some of the boredom, because many people are just constantly stimulated, and like you said, they just become products of the kind of content that they consume. So if you take some time to just stare at the wall, you start to learn a lot more things about yourself.
Okay. Let's dive a bit deeper into your mind. I think you said on a podcast recently that entrepreneurship was single-handedly the thing that turned your life around, turned you from essentially a degenerate to doing a 180. When I was 19, I read this quote that said, entrepreneurship is just a personal growth engine in disguise. What do you think about that, and how has it changed your life?
Yeah, a good friend of mine, he said something similar to me. He said, business is a fantastic vessel of self-improvement. So you can just get onto self-improvement as it is. But the truth is, like, you need some kind of big vehicle to get onto to change your life. So for some guys, that might be the vehicle which heads towards women. And it's like, okay, well, I'm going to optimize my life for women. And so I need to go to the gym, get more confident, learn to speak to girls and hold their eye contact. And that's a vessel of some forms of self-improvement. Another one can be you're building your physique with bodybuilding, then that gets you into self-improvement because you're going to sleep early and you're eating the protein and you're training hard and exercising and maximizing testosterone. Business is probably the most significant vehicle that I've been in by far, because not only has it helped me, it's also your gift to the world. It's like the lever you use to touch the lives of now hundreds, thousands of people, rather than just yourself and your own pleasure, like it is in dating or in building some kind of material success or muscle or whatever. So I think it's a fantastic vehicle. There's many people these days that think business is a scam, or it's weird, or it's fake, or it's, you know, like all these internet gurus and stuff. But for the young guys who are watching this, I think if you do start an online business or any form of business and you start to optimize your life for that, you'll notice that you randomly are getting onto self-improvement. You start meditating because you know that that'll destroy the entrepreneur ADHD. The reason why there's so many guys watching this who have wanted to get into business, but they keep flipping around from business model to business models because they basically have ADHD, that if they meditated, they'd actually stick to one model and get some success in. So that's just one form of how self-improvement is completely, let's say your business success is correlated to your own self-improvement journey.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think every fire that I've put out in my business in the last 6 years has somehow prepared me for fires in other areas of my life.
Yeah.
I've not realized that, you know, it's all connected. While we're on the topic of business and people getting into business, I wrote an email recently to my newsletter talking about optimal morning routines, all right? I know you're a big fan of routines, but I think we've got to the point now where people are not meditating for the sake of being present. They're doing it because they heard Andrew Huberman say it. People are not going for walks in nature because it stills their mind. They're doing it because they may have heard you say it, right? Everything is just a means to an end. So how do you find that optimal balance? What do you think the perfect morning routine is?
Yeah, it's a good point. I've heard this argument a lot, like, you know, people are doing the self-improvement habit not like in and of itself because they heard it online, which I don't even think is a bad thing. Because let's say, okay, someone's season of life that they're in is business, and they hear randomly from some video that walking into nature can be good for you. So they go and try that. Them trying that is a fantastic thing. Let's be honest. Of all the shit they could be spending their time on watching, like Subway or GTA gameplay, like you were doing a minute ago, or like, you know, like simping over a girl, replying, like sending messages on Instagram to some girls, or watching porn or video games, trying something that, like some educational move or some self-improvement habit that you've heard online, is one of the best things you can spend your time doing anyway. So for the people who criticize that and say like, oh, you know, someone's morning routine's a bit cringe, it's like, of all the things you could be doing, first of all, this is one of the best things. So let's just like set that as the foundation. This is exactly how I'd implement self-improvement habits. So you start with what season of life you're in, what the biggest goal is this year. So imagine you've got a young guy who his biggest goal right now is to get to 10K a month in some online business. What I'd recommend for him is that he actually goes through those moments where he's obsessing over self-improvement videos, Huberman, whatever, and he's gotten a list of things that he's heard is good for him. Morning sunlight, walks in nature, zone 2 cardio, sleeping right, blue light, red light therapy, whatever, like all of them, right? And just start to add them in one by one and see if it does have a positive impact on the goal that you're trying to get to. So you said like, you know, oh, but people meditate not because they really should, but just because they heard about it. But this is like how you try something. It's like you hear about it and then you just try it for yourself and see if it moves you towards the direction that you want it to go into. So this is why, for example, my own self-improvement protocol rapidly changes with my own seasons of life. There was times when, for example, I was meditating for an hour and journaling for an hour a day. And then there was times when I was reading for 3, 4, 5 hours a day. Now, for example, I only meditate 5, 10 minutes a day. I haven't journaled in a very long time because I'm aligned to the current season and the big goals that I'm in. So let's say, again, that younger guy who wants to get to 10K a month, he starts having a morning routine where he wakes up, he does the cold showers, he meditates, he does the gratitude journaling, and then he goes and does his exercise, then he comes back and breaks his fast, and he has the electrolytes and whatever. You kind of know what is helping you towards your goal or not. You have the intuition, as like most people would. And so if he finds that, for example, the 1 hour walk in nature isn't actually helping him to get to the big goal, consider dropping it. There's nothing wrong with having a healthy habit which isn't helping you to go into the direction that you want to. And then you just say, yeah, you know, it is healthy, fine. But I'd rather save that half an hour or the 45 minutes and to put that into reading books on money and wealth, for example. So it all comes down to what someone's biggest goal is, and then just choosing the habits that will actually help you to get there.
Because you won't know until you do them, right? So
that's it. That's why I'm a big pusher for the guys to get into those extreme self-improvement periods where they're trying, you know, that it's kind of cringe, but they wake up, they got a big morning routine and they're trying it all, and it ingrains in their personality. Because even though that kind of gets made fun of online, I'm here today because I went through that season myself.
Of course. I wouldn't look at it as cringe. The reason I brought it up is because Hormozy had a student, right? And the student told him what his morning routine is and why he was wondering why he was getting outworked in business. It's because his morning routine was 4 hours and the actual work he was doing was 2 hours, right? So I understand what you're saying though. I think with everything it's about iteration. You have to try it and then iterate. And on the point of seasons, I do think that everything is just preparation for the next season. And then the final season never arrives because you're always preparing for the next thing. So let's go into identity, all right? I think I heard you mention in another podcast that you had to kind of destroy your old self to become your new self. I always say your old life will cost you a new one. What was that process like?
I had to kill every part of me. I had to, it was probably the hardest decision I've made. I was in Manchester. I had graduated from university and I was living with my girlfriend at the time, who I had been with for around 2-3 years now. And we had lived together for most of that time. So this was the girl that I was most attached to up until this point in life. We had lived together. We had woken up and brushed our teeth together basically every morning for years and years and years. And I knew the relationship wasn't good for me. It wasn't even good for her. We were quite, you know, like toxic and whatever. Like, but we were all only like 20, 21 years old. And living in the city is expensive. So I had to work a full-time job to be able to afford it. And I started to see the absurdity of that, where I wanted to be an entrepreneur, but I couldn't go full-time into business because I had to work in a job to make money right now to afford an apartment that I wasn't even spending most of my time in because I was at work. And I used to just fantasize thinking, if I went back home and I had no expenses, I'd just lower how much money I needed, which meant that I could save up all my time from the full-time job, and then put that all into business, and I could become a lethal competitive entrepreneur. I'd love to tell you that I'm like some masculine guy who, you know, realized that this is what he needs to do with life, and he took action immediately. Like I tell my boys, yeah, take action, take action. I thought about the decision for about 6 months. I got like a few, you know, like big A4 size journals to debate the decision. And I went through 2 of them. So that's, I don't know, 120, 200 pages of me thinking about the decision, pros and cons, because my relationship with my family wasn't good. It was traumatic. It was abusive. I left and I had them all blocked on everything because the only interactions I had with them were so just, you know, argumentative and hostile. I hit an ultimate low point in life where I had no one. I was enlisted into the Air Force. I was like halfway through the application. I'd already been shaving my hair, waking up at 5 a.m., going to the office, and at 6 a.m. doing a workout there, starting work in the middle of my shift, what I would do is like sneakily eat my little sandwich in the middle of the shift, so that way when it was lunchtime I could go back to the gym, because I didn't want to sit next to my co-workers who I didn't fit in with. Bro, I was 6'1", 10% body fat, training for the military, still very similar mind that I have now. And my co-workers, even though they were polite people, they were like, you know, obese 30-year-olds who were still working the same job as me and getting paid the same as me. Even though I was like 21, they were 30-something years old. So I had nothing in common with them. Didn't have a good relationship with my girl. I used to finish work and speed walk towards the tram, which just conveniently every fucking day would leave as I was like walking up to it. So I had to wait 12 minutes for the next one, which isn't bad. It's 12 minutes, but that used to break my heart because I already didn't have enough time for myself. You know, you want to come home, you want to relax. And it used to like actually hurt. I get onto the tram every month or so, there's some weird chaotic shit that's happening. Some homeless guy screaming, there's a racist guy, whatever. I already had trauma from like 2 years ago when the Manchester bombing happened, and I had like a couple of guys trying like stab me for it, blaming me that I was the terrorist who fucking did it or something. So I used to take the tram home, sweat, PTSD, everything. When the tram would stop and I'd get off and I'd take this shortcut towards my apartment building, there was like this particular part where there was no lights, and if you wanted to take the shortcut, you're supposed to like get your phone out and put on the flashlight. And I still remember this to this day. Like I would just turn the light off and I just kind of like walk through the darkness without knowing, like it's pitch black, so you don't know if you're going to step in, whatever. And I'd just be looking into the apartment building, counting like, you know, the floors and seeing the exact window of my apartment every day, expecting like some guy to be in there fucking my girl. Like that's the point of my mental health at this point. I used to be in tears walking by, and I wipe it all up and go back to the apartment and act like everything was normal, smoke weed till I fall asleep, and then repeat it every single day. And that entire day's grind would get me 60 pounds. So I fucking hated my life. And I did live like that for months and months and months, debating the decision, till eventually I thought, you know what, the decision is too big to make, so what I could do is a smaller thing. Instead of trying to take this massive leap to move back home permanently, what if for the first time in a year I go see my family, because I hadn't seen them for an entire year. So I went home for 1 or 2 days, and when I went there, what was interesting was it was the start of COVID, and it didn't even feel like there was any lockdown or anything. Like I was just back in my own home, and I was with my family, it was social. Then I went to the park, and it was, it was fine to do that. And the moment I went back to Manchester in the same apartment with the girl, it was like, oh shit, yeah, COVID's a thing. You can't do anything. We're just stuck in the apartment. And I realized just how little I had in common with this girl, which, it's no disrespect to her. She was a nice girl, but when I was at home for those 2 days, I didn't even think about smoking weed. Not even once. Didn't even think about junk food. Not even once. I took my laptop home. I was just being an entrepreneur, working on business, and it was fun for me to do that. The moment I walked through the apartment and I was with this person who I wasn't even compatible with, that's when the thought of substances, let's watch TV shows, let's eat junk food came into mind. And that it was the lesson I learned was like just how bad you could treat yourself based on the people around you, even if they're not mean to you. If there's someone that you're not even compatible with, that you feel like you don't really have much in common with, you might be way more likely to just do some bad habits, take substances, because the only way you can be around certain people is if, for example, you go out and drink with them or you smoke with them or whatever. And so I went into the other room and I journaled saying, if I order weed right now, I call the guy. Even though I didn't even think about it at home, I need to get the fuck out of here. I hated my life, and I was thinking, if I can't even, I've been here for like an hour, if that's the first thing I'm thinking about, it's just completely crazy. I lasted a few more minutes. And I'm calling the guy, and I'm like, yeah, fuck this, I'm getting the fuck out of here.
Reframe nervousness as excitement, because your mind can't tell the difference. That's something you said recently. What does that mean?
Your body can't tell the difference. So if you're nervous for a date, you may as well just delude yourself to saying, oh yeah, it's excitement. I'm excited for this date. I'm excited for this podcast. Because if you go into something and you're thinking, oh, I'm nervous, and you tell yourself that story, then you'll actually perform worse. But if you say I'm excited, you come in with like this positive energy. Nice one.
Okay. I think that's it's powerful, because it goes to show the thought patterns that were just automatically installed in your mind. As soon as you see her, as soon as you get back into a certain environment, it all just clicks, and the grooves in your mind are so deep, it's hard to undo. And on the point of that, you said you're around workers that you didn't really relate to, your girl that you didn't really relate to. There's this concept that Dan Coe wrote about in his book called the Antiv Vision, right?
I think this is a very useful framework to design your life. And it's temporarily transferring your consciousness into someone you don't want to be like, right? Trying to figure out what makes them tick. Why have they installed these habits? Why is their life the way that it is? So you find out what you don't want and then flip it on its head. And obviously, people might think that's a negative thing to do, put people in a negative light. But if you're doing it for the sake of your own growth, then it doesn't matter. But it seems like that's what you kind of unconsciously did. And that's what made you realize.
People don't realize how powerful negative emotions can be. Like in the modern day, everyone's trying to run away from that. You feel depressed, you go take some weird medication. You feel sad, you go eat some bullshit. You feel lonely, you stimulate yourself on Instagram, messaging people or Tinder. People don't sit with negative emotions, but they're actually our biggest driving force in life. One of my favorite authors, MJ DeMarco, he has this phrase, which is FTE, fuck this event. It's the moment that your life has gotten so bad that you have basically a breakdown, and that's what causes a big change through obviously like negative emotions and pain and suffering. And I feel sorry for the people who don't have that, because I think back to this moment, right? And I left this place because it was so bad. I moved back home. I become an entrepreneur, and I've become widely successful since then. I was being paid 17.5K a year in that job, which is fairly low. I even had a degree. If around that time, my manager came up to me and said, Hamza, you've been working so hard, we're going to increase your wage by £500 a year. So basically fucking nothing, less than £50 a month. I would have stayed.
Yeah.
That positive reinforcement, like that positive emotion.
That's how they get you.
I would have stayed. I was lucky that my job was basically so shit and my pay was so low that I was able to, hate it so much. But for the other people, the problem is they're saved from the negative emotion with the modern comforts. So let's say the average guy is completely deprived from intimacy, sex, and love. That should be a burning, burning desire for him to work really hard to become eligible for a woman's love. But he won't, because porn makes it okay for him. ASMR videos or some Twitch streamers or whatever, like he gets his intimacy from, that makes it okay for him to be in that situation. The same with, fat people who, for example, in primal times, they wouldn't have been able to go out on the hunt. They'd be ashamed of themselves and lose weight, but they don't need to because they don't need to hunt. They can just go on Deliveroo and get the food delivered. People who are lonely and have no tribe, they would have so much negative emotion that they would go and seek the tribe. They would go and be social, but they don't need to because they'll be watching content like this and form a parasocial relationship. So when we have these primal needs, these days, people are not feeling the negative emotion of being deprived from them because there's so much modern comfort that just gives you a fake version of that. Like the average guy is so low status, has no recognition, has no brotherhood. He should go and work hard as fuck to go get respect from other men, but he won't because he has a high prestige on Call of Duty, and that's where he gets his status from these days. You take that away from him, take off all the video games and have him raw in real life and he feels like a fucking loser. What's he gonna do? Work hard as hell.
Yeah.
You put him next to the boys, let's say, and you bring him into a martial arts gym, and he's no longer hiding behind the gold skin on the video game or whatever, like, he's good at Fortnite or something, and he's just here looking like an idiot because he doesn't even know how to move his body. Suddenly he's going to train. Suddenly, like, through his day, he'll be shadow boxing in the morning because he wants to get the respect of other men, which is a completely healthy thing. But people save themselves from that negative emotion, don't go out into the real world, delude themselves into thinking they're at a better place with the fake fix of their need, and then wonder when it gets like too bad. They're still lonely, they're still deprived, they're still fat, but it's like too far gone. In the video game world, you're a dragon slayer. When you watch porn, you've just had 10 different women at once. You don't need to hunt anymore. You've just had every taste of your taste buds fulfilled. When you've had that for so long, stepping back into the real world is so difficult.
Yeah, I think it was either Socrates or Seneca, one of them, that said, I pity the person that goes through life without an opponent. And I think what they were saying is basically what you're saying, right? It's just, if you've got it too easy, everyone's got it too easy nowadays. So it's even harder now to make that choice and make that jump. And on the topic of chaos and embracing chaos, what's your personal process to embracing chaos? I have mine. I think you meditate as well, but we'll touch on that. But becoming present and seeing the storm around you without getting attached to the things that are happening around you, that's my best process to put fires out and, you know, to understand that chaos is there to transform you, rebirth you, essentially. What's your take on it?
I'll give you a very specific answer. This is exactly what I do. Let's say I've just posted a video which is getting like a lot of hate, for example. First of all, we need to have a good baseline of health and focus, presence, happiness. Because, for example, let's say the same thing happens. I wake up one day and let's say I receive hate online, loads of hate. There's like a viral video that's about me, right? If on the first day, on the first version of this reality, my diet's been completely clean for the last week, I will be a lot more stoic during that situation. On the other hand, if I eat like a normal person, I would be a lot more emotional in that second reality. People don't realize that they'd actually be like really, really good at coping with stress, coping with trauma and all the things that life throws at them. If they just didn't eat shit food, people don't realize, like if you had rice yesterday, you had fucking pasta, bread, pizza, like this normal people food, and you don't realize how weak that actually makes you. Like if you just eat like a normal human being, which is basically just meat, maybe a little bit of fruit, you'll realize like you actually have like a lot more resilience than you've ever found before. The same with, for example, sleep. And I won't lie to you, like I told you guys the truth, like my sleep's been terrible since I came here. I've had lots of work to do, events back to back to back. I've been going to sleep like 1, waking up at 5. And so undeniably, that means that whatever stress I've had over the last like week, I probably wouldn't have dealt with it as good as if I had the perfect 8 hours. And you can't always have the perfect routine, especially when you're changing your life, you're traveling, whatever, but you want to be maximizing a lot of these self-improvement habits. So that's like the foundation, first of all. Most people, I would actually say, who ask me for advice on how to deal with a situation that's full of pressure, they just need to focus on the foundation. If you just focus on the foundation, you improve your sleep, you improve your diet, you cut carbs basically, or you go low carb, you'll be surprised of how much better you are instantly with your stress tolerance. Then let's say, okay, no matter where you are with your foundation, now let's say, okay, there's a moment of stress. Let's say there's a traumatic moment, you've been attacked on the street, maybe you've been attacked online, it feels the same way. How do you cope with that now? Distance, time, and people. So distance and time, what I found is if I see a video about me or if some chaotic shit's happened, the half-life of the emotions that are there is actually fairly short. So you feel a certain emotion, right? There's pain, there's fear, there's social isolation, all these like primal emotions trigger as soon as we have like a chaotic moment, especially when it's regarding other people, because that adds in the fear and the pain of like being kicked out of the tribe. But that emotion like usually only lasts for like minutes. You'd be surprised. Like most people aren't very aware of their own tendencies. But these days, when I see like a bad video about me or a bad message or, there's a relationship problem, whatever it is, I'm kind of acutely aware that like how I feel right now will be different literally 5 minutes from now. So I try and make sure not to respond or react with the original emotion, because that's just you being triggered. And usually acting from emotions, especially for masculine men, will almost never actually get you to the best case result. So it's just having a bit of distance in time. Like if I see a video that's horrible about me, maybe I won't even watch it just yet. Maybe I'll, like I said with people, I'll send it to my brother, tell him to watch it and tell him like if there's any good points, bullet point them for me. So it's like, if there's any learning lessons this motherfucker said that I can actually learn from, sure, let me hear it. If not, if he's just fucking yapping about bullshit, it's like, I don't need to hear that, right? So if I'm distant away from that, or for example, if there's an argument with your family member and your dad said something mean to you, if you don't respond straight away and you kind of say like, oh, I'm really sorry, I've just got to go do something first, and you just go stand in your room for like 30 seconds, you'll be surprised for how many more like relationship problems you could solve. The same for any guy who's got like a girlfriend or wife and she's doing this and you're doing this, your relationship's breaking down. If you take literally a few breaths before you react to anything, you'll be very surprised of just how impressive you'll be in every stressful situation. And the reason why I mentioned people as well is because I've went through most of this journey alone, where I left that girl, then I moved back home, and I was in this monk mode period where I basically didn't have friends, and I just built this business, which was weird because I became like a modern day leader whilst also feeling alone through most of it. What I will say is the hardest things that I've went through in the last few years, I got through them because I had good people that I could go and turn to. I had my family, I had like my girl that I was dating, I have my brother, I have my friends. And so if there's some chaotic shit, again, there's a video, it's like I kind of say it to the person next to me and I'm like, oh, you know, this guy's made a video. And basically all the time, the person next to me will be like, oh, whatever. It's like, he said something that you probably should take as a lesson, but he's just being emotional. You know, he's just trying to trigger you, whatever. Oh, this girl said this and she's acting like this and she said this and she did this. Oh, whatever. Who cares about her? You can do better. It's this, it's this. When you don't have that social tribe that most people don't, you don't have that co-regulation. So all you have is like the circulation of your own hormones just compounding onto each other, you know, like a lot of fear-based thinking. So a lot of people would manage the chaos of life so much better if they just lived like healthy human beings. They had stuff that they had to do, which they felt was purposeful and meaningful and it had some kind of impact. And then they also were around a tribe that helped co-regulate them.
Yeah, I write about how it's all noise. 99% of the world is noise, right? And something I wrote about chaos recently was that I took it from Robert Greene's Mastery. He said that stars always find their orbit and rivers always find the sea. So you just need to do your part, right? If you do your part, the rest will fall into place. And when there is chaos, there's a state of chaos around you, all you can focus on is what you can control, really. You can't control the storm.
Third, Hamzaism. No one ever got rich from investing.
Yeah.
They diversified later. How do you diversify? And when do you diversify?
You see those like cringe videos, which are like there's not enough space, bro.
Just go the other way.
Yeah. You see those cringe finance videos on YouTube, which is like, make $500 a day from investing. Like, investing is not about making money. It's about multiplying money. Mm-hmm. But if you multiply 0 by anything, it doesn't matter because it's still 0.
Agreed.
Most young guys have got not enough money and they're starting to look into investing and it's just foolish. Investing something you look at, maybe you're making 10 to 50K a month first, then you start thinking about investing. Till then, put in 0 thoughts and just focus on actually building the income stream first.
But on that point, you mentioned your tribe, right? And building your tribe and building the people around you. You came with your brothers today. I'm here with my people. So how do you seek counsel? How did you find these people that you trust to be around you? What was it about them? And are you very, when it comes to having people around you, are you very transactional? They have to bring something to the table? Or not that they can be dead weight, but sometimes it's not transactional. You know, sometimes they're just there, like your friends. What's your take on that?
Yeah, it's a really good question.
And I'll just add, just before you answer, sorry to cut off your thinking. Sometimes it's dangerous to use other people's map of reality to conquer your reality. Mm. They've got a complete different set of filters and perspective and things that they went through to develop the lens through they see the world. So how do you know you can trust their judgment? When they don't know what you've been through, you don't know what they've been through.
Okay, let's start from the first step of actually finding people who are worthy to spend time with, because that's the constraint for most people. So I actually wrote a post recently. I made a video actually saying, okay, guys who are younger than 20, write a question below. And the most common question by far was basically young guys saying, like, I've got no one in my life. I've got no male friends. I wasn't even surprised of how many guys feel like that, because I was quite similar as well. How do you actually start by getting male friends? The truth is, the advice that's online is just fucking terrible. Oh, go to the martial arts gym. Go and speak to people. That's nice. But you need to actually be somebody first. Yeah. So I'm not going to bullshit you. Like the chance is that whoever's watching this right now, nobody wants to be friends with you. Mm-hmm. Honestly. Like you can say I'm an asshole for this. I'll look directly at you and say, like, I couldn't imagine anyone would want to spend time with you, because the average young guy is doing nothing with his life. He wakes up, he consumes content. He's basically a fucking consuming bot. He might go to the gym, maybe. He's on a 6-day route, push-pull leg split, but he actually goes 3 or 4 days a week. He cheats on his diet, he eats shit food. He's got some fucked up thoughts and whatever. And it's like, then he just goes to sleep. That's it. Why would anyone want to join your life? So before we even think about making friends, we like the foundation is like, are you actually a cool, valuable guy who's interesting to be around? Are you nice? Are you kind? Are you able to connect with people? Can you even hold eye contact without doing the fucking NPC eyes? I bring a bunch of my fans out as well, and they are young, so you know they're excused in some ways, but it's a shame how many people like aren't even humans anymore. They're basically like subhumans. Like I meet most people and I actually consider them to be subhumans. Like they can't even handshake you. They'll squeeze too tight, or I'll go to handshake a guy and he'll give me his fingers like a bitch like this. So what am I supposed to do with this? How do I handshake a fucking grown ass man? What am I supposed to do? Like, nah, like what the fuck is this? Like, why is it, you've never been taught how to handshake a man, or they heard my advice, you know, give me your hand properly, and then they'll squeeze it too hard. I'm like, bro, let go. What's wrong with you? And they'll look at me like, you know, with big beady eyes because they don't know how to hold eye contact properly, but they've watched my eye contact videos. So most people can't even interact like human beings, and then they're wondering like, oh, why don't I have friends? Because no one wants to spend time with you. Even you wouldn't want to spend time with yourself. Now, if you build yourself up, let's say you go and do 1,000 workouts, and now you've learned a lot about the gym, and there's a guy in there who's now getting into the gym, you can teach him so much. So suddenly he'll actually want to spend time with you because you've got a level of mastery inside of an area that he cares about, which is what men value. Men only value a few things in each other. We value like humor, mastery, honor, and strength. That's about it. We're simple creatures. If you can make me laugh, you're already invited into the circle, especially if I then think you're fairly trustworthy. But the funnier you are, the less you need everything else. It's like you can be an absolute clown and be a degenerate and, you know, not be trustworthy, but you'll be let into the circle just because you're funny as fuck. You're a clown. But if you have like a fairly decent level of humor, you're kind of present, you're nice to be around, and then you've also got mastery. You've got like some skill where you've actually leveled up, and maybe you could teach me something. Suddenly that's just super, super interesting. I want to have you around because I can learn something from you. You asked, are my friendships transactional? Every relationship is transactional. I'm just the rare person who will admit it. Everyone else will hide away as pussies and say like, oh, you know, transactional this and this and this. It sounds bad. It's just human nature. The people who say like, don't, you know, oh, this person wants a transactional relationship, that's so bad. It's just how humans and animals interact with each other. Even let's say if you're spending time with someone who can give you nothing, absolutely nothing. Like I helped a homeless guy a few years ago. And that was still transactional because I still knew that in some ways it would develop me and give me stories that I would be telling in the future. It wasn't that he was paying me or, you know, he had no fucking money to give me or anything. But it was that like, I still knew there would be some kind of benefit. Even the kindest man who's charitable, who gives a bunch of money to whatever charity you think of, it's still transactional because he still knows that he's got like a nice story and a character that's built from that. We all only do things for our own benefit, no matter how like selfless people like to believe they are. So if you understand that and you're not a pussy and you can just admit, yep, relationships are transactional, what can you give to the other person? Do you have skills? Are you funny? Are you interesting? Are you just a great listener? Like I've got my friend there, Tan, he's a fucking amazing listener. We'll be sat there and he'll just ask me questions and he'll hype up saying like, oh, I'm learning so much from you. That's already like a thing that makes me feel awesome. It's like if someone's a great listener, they don't even have to have much of the mastery in a certain realm. Just be good at listening, be a human being, and people will want to spend time with you. But the average person consumes content for like 6 hours a day. The average young person is on their phone for like 8 hours a day. They're subhumans. You can't interact with them. It's like you've got good eye contact, you've got good listening skills. The average young person, if you go and meet one of your fans, it's like they basically like almost legally aren't even human anymore. You'll be speaking to them, their brain turns off. It's fucking weird. It's like you see someone's brain literally just snap and go off, and they start thinking about fucking Subway Surfers, GTA gameplay. It's like their brain is so fucked that they can't even connect with you.
In the bottom half.
That's it. That's like literally like it's like having Google glasses or some shit, and they're just watching like some gameplay, like Sneeko's live stream or some shit, like whilst talking to you. And so if someone's like that, that same person's wondering like, oh, I'm so lonely. No, you know, people aren't being social. No, we need to make this clear. Lots of people are being very social. We've got like fucking the boys in here. There's like 8 guys in here working together right now. It's not a rare thing to have this. It's just that the average person doesn't have much social interaction because they don't bring anything to the table. So you can be offended at this and think that I'm a dick, and I probably am a dick. Or you can just take some fucking action and get to the way you want to be. What you do is you go and get a little bit of mastery in one area that you really care about. For me, it was the gym. I went and did thousands of workouts. Now, in general, almost every person that I meet, knows less about the gym, weightlifting, training than I do. I still meet guys who are way bigger than me, whatever, fitter. But in general, I'm more experienced. That means that when I invite you to do a workout, you're more likely to say yes because you automatically assume I could teach you something and it'd be a fun thing because I'm going to take the leadership role. You just have to show up and you're going to learn something. That's already value. Yeah. Never mind the fact that then I've built a business in the most in-demand model out there, which then is incredibly attractive as well. So this is what I'd say to the young guys, like, build parts of your life which are so interesting that then when you message someone and say, hey, let's hang out and do this, the other person, it's like an easy thing for them. If I tell you, like, let's record a video, you say yes. It's as simple as that. Of course you do. Because even if we're not talking about the transaction of like, you'll get subscribers from doing a video with me, it's just like, you know, it'll be a fun experience because the other guy has mastery. The same with like, you've just started Muay Thai. If you went for like 2 years, 3 years, you started winning fights and you message me, hey, want to go train Muay Thai? I'll be like, yeah, fuck yeah. Like, just by being next to you, you would make me better in a cool area. Yeah. Most guys don't have anything that they're even decent at other than what? Consuming content. Yep. So once you go out into the real world and experience that negative emotion, the pain of training, the delayed gratification, the sore, like, you know, the sore muscles, people will actually want to spend time with you. That's how you develop the social circle, is like actually do things in real life and then just invite people to the things you've been doing. It's that simple, but people just don't take action on that.
Completely agree. My pinned video on my TikTok is about how to actually network. Networking is bullshit. Like, to be honest, like networking events that go on, and you know, they're pyramid schemes in disguise, right? All I said in the video was lock yourself away for 6 months and build something. When you build something cool, you'll attract people. That's how we got in touch, right? Someone, a mutual friend. There's nothing more to it, really. I think networking in general is it's a scam for the most part. You just have to go and do something cool and the people will come and find you, all right? So, yeah, and on the point of consumption, I forgot who wrote it, but they were talking about consumption prisons, where in consumption prisons, right? You go to work in a boxy car, you go to your office, you're in a boxy office, you work on a box, you come home, you're on your box at night, watching TV, scrolling through TikTok. So 95% of your thoughts are not even yours.
Yeah, exactly.
They're all been programmed into you. You're not even 1/4 of the man your grandfather was.
Yeah. So our average testosterone levels these days are about 400 or so, 450. Testosterone's all-time low. Estrogen in a man is all-time high. Most men have got bitch titties these days. They've got flabby hips. They're shaped like 4 out of 10 women. So,
on that note of thought patterns, Navar Ravikant is one of my favorite forward thinkers. And he said, when someone talks to you for the first time, so I'm talking to you for the first time, right? You have a filter because what's coming to you is external. He said you need to apply that filter to yourself, to your own thoughts, and create some distance between you and your thoughts. I have my process for that. How would you do that? And do you think that's important to do, to not attach to your thoughts? Because I imagine when you were destroying your identity, you had some dark thoughts, right? So how did you sit there and think, that's not even mine? Right?
I love this question. For the guy who's watching this, your own brain convinced you to watch porn 1,000 times. Your own brain convinced you to put 10,000 hours into video games. Most people don't realize that parts of their brain are actually not even on their own side. So what we need to do is have like let's say a concept, a thinking concept. This is why I like the two characters, Jeffrey and Adonis. Jeffrey is like the bad part of our brain, which has always pushed us to do the degenerate habits that we know is just never served us well. Watching porn, video games, junk food, all of those things. Adonis is like the good part of our brain, which is like the part of our brain that convinces us and pushes us hard to go to the gym and delay gratification and speak to the person, even if we're not feeling so confident, and to sit up straight and have respect for ourselves. Once you actually really realize that you have both of these in your brain, you just need to ask yourself, is this my Jeffrey brain or my Adonis brain? Because you'll be surprised, like, you know, your own brain will push you incessantly to go and watch porn or eat the chocolate. But the moment you take a step back and say, wait, like, Is this the good part of my brain? No, of course not. So why would you keep listening to the bad part of your brain? Like I say to the guys who are in my program, and they'll ask me for like YouTube advice, right? So I've got like 2 million subscribers. So they ask me for YouTube advice and I'll tell them something. And then they'll disagree. And I always find that absurd. I'm like, you have like 200 subscribers. Why would you trust your own brain and not mine? In the modern day, people love this cute stuff of like, oh, you know, critical thinking and question everything. That's just fucking stupid as fuck. Don't like question what happens in your own thoughts, fine. But if you've got a mentor who is at the point that you want to be in life, and he tells you, okay, do this to get to where I am faster, don't question it. Blindly trust the fucking advice and see what happens. Because I'll see in my comments of people saying, oh, don't blindly trust Hamza. You know, you should like be your own critical thinker. Fuck you. Imagine 19-year-old me like saying, oh, think for yourself. He was thinking for himself and he was a dickhead. He was literally smoking weed. Like that's what happens when most guys think for themselves. They smoke weed all the time. They fap all the time. They're like triple texting girls. It's like, that's what happens when a young man thinks for himself. But when you start thinking as if you are Andrew Tate, if you start thinking as if you are Iman Gaji, as if you are me, as if you are Andrew Huberman or whoever else, you start like acting in your assumption of them. And often what you see on social media is the person's highlight anyway. So there's been times when I literally 50 times a day will answer questions in my mind of what would Andrew Tate do? What would Iman do? What would this entrepreneur do? What would Alex Amosi do? And that's the fastest progress I've ever made in my life. Because why, if like your brain can only keep you at the current level or even worse than you've ever been before. Your own brain can't take you to the next level. If it could, you'd already be there. The only way to get to the next level is by thinking about the guy who's already there. So why would you like live your life whilst allowing your own Jeffrey brain to tell you like this is the plan, let's go eat chocolate right now, when instead if like there's an athlete you look up to, Conor McGregor, and you ask yourself, what would Conor McGregor do? He wouldn't eat the chocolate, so don't eat the chocolate. It's like give yourself the new paradigm, the new like thinking practice of whoever is your role model right now, who has achieved what you want out of this season of life, you know, the biggest goal you've got, whatever it is, 10K a month, fitness, whatever. Choose one guy and just ask yourself 50 times a day what that role model would do in every situation you get into. What to eat, what time to wake up, what task to do, if you should do this thing or this thing, how you should respond to your family, how you should respond to this text. Just constantly ask yourself that question. And what I would suggest is do that up until you get to a point where you're basically on that person's level, which may take you years, and that thinking practice no longer works. So it's like I've been able to explode my business by thinking about a specific entrepreneur, which took me to a certain level, but then I got to about his level and then I didn't surpass anymore because I was still operating at that level. And so then all I have to do is just think about the next guy and the next guy and the next guy. So my advice that the guys who are struggling with thinking and, you know, you've got these negative thoughts and these positive thoughts is like, why would you even want your own brain to tell you shit? Your own brain can only tell you about where you are right now. It's absurd and it's so egotistical to think that, oh, you should question everything. Fucking question nothing. Choose one role model. Copy him fucking ruthlessly till you get to his level, then abandon him and move on to the next one. I've been able to rapidly evolve because I almost have like a blank slate 24/7 and I choose what thinking to allow to like operate in my life. To other people from the outside, it probably looks kind of crazy that I changed my beliefs and I act like this and I, you know, this was my goal previously. Now I'm doing things like this. But the results speak for themselves. I've become wildly successful in a few years. I've retired everyone that I love. It's like, it's really worked for me. And when I see the internet culture of these little nerds saying like, question everything, I just think like, why the fuck would you ever do that? It's like the results are there for the taking. So just be aware for the guys who are watching this, that parts of your brain are not serving you. That's programming. That's like bullshit addictions. Listening to your own brain, especially if you're a fucking loser, let's be honest, is not going to get you anywhere, right? If you're already super successful, you're a billionaire, don't listen to me because obviously I'm below you, fine. But if you're like some kid who's had a porn addiction and you've got 10,000 hours on a video game, your brain convinced you to do that. Why would you keep listening to your brain? It doesn't make any sense at all.
Yeah. It's like the quote that says, you can't solve problems from the same level of consciousness that created them. Doesn't make any sense. Yeah, completely agree. I think you can develop your own filtration system once you're at that level, right? I think the level I'm at right now. Obviously, I don't think I'm past the people that I look up to, but I do think that I can successfully categorize thoughts. And that's all you're talking about, really, putting them into Jeffrey and Adonis. So let's talk about ego. How do you find... I think ego is a really interesting thing because everyone talks about ego death. Everyone talks about, there's one side of the spectrum is ego death. You shouldn't have an ego. The other side is you need to be that primal warrior, which is, I think, where you lean more towards. How do you find that balance of being primal and having an ego without basically coming across like a prick, basically?
Come across as a prick. All the most successful people do.
Mm-hmm.
I had a comment on my Instagram recently where someone was saying like, oh, Hamza's like stopped being humble. A few people said that. So Instagram post I posted was like a picture of me and 80 of my boys that came out to one of our meetups recently. We're all shirtless. We're in Hyde Park. And I captioned it, I'm one of the greatest leaders of our generation, which is literally just a fact. It's not even my emotions or my own judgment of the situation. It's like, name 20 leaders better than me of our generation. You can't.
Statistics-wise as well.
There's probably like what?
Look at the numbers.
There's a few guys you could potentially think of who are like leaders of our generation who are in their 20s or 30s, right? Maybe Andrew Tate. Like, who else? Can you name 5 right now, modern day leaders? Because nobody gives a fuck about some government politician, right? They're all irrelevant. So it's like, who's a modern day leader? Andrew Tate's probably number 1. Number 2. There's basically 2 men who are like taking leadership positions these days, right? I can't think of a single other guy. There's fucking YouTubers who make videos fine. There's like who else? There's a cute guy who motivates people in his gym. Yeah, sure, fine. That's really wholesome. But in terms of large scale impact, there's really not that many like strong men out there who are taking leadership positions globally. So I'm in the top 2 or 3 or 4 or 5, right? So it's just a fact. I am one of the greatest leaders of our generation. I'm not perfect at all, bro. I fuck up every single day, right? I'm not hiding away from that.
Yeah.
I'm fully broken and I'm constantly repairing myself. But still, I'm taking the responsibility. But yeah, in the comments, there's people like, oh, this is Hamza needs to be more humble. And I replied to one guy who was like, okay, so first of all, are you humble? And then are you successful? Like, have you achieved your goals? Because I clicked on his profile. He just looks like an average, low status young man. Why would I adopt his thinking pattern? It's very interesting. It's like, if I am more successful than the person who leaves hates and says, oh, you've got too high of an ego, why would I allow his thinking to infiltrate my mind when it hasn't even served him well? Because what's interesting is that the guys who I see who are above me, they're all egotistical as hell. They're all so arrogant. They might not show you, like some of the good boys, the influencers and the celebrities and whatever, they might not show you because they know that it kind of pisses off the peasants. But it seems to me like every killer out there is extremely arrogant. They don't show it though. The most intelligent people, what they'll do is they'll win the Hollywood trophy and they'll come up and they'll lie to the peasants and like, I couldn't have done it without you guys and stuff. That same person, this Hollywood actor, he's gonna go home and like fuck like 3 girls aggressively thinking that he's the alpha male and that his like fans are basically little bitches. But in front of them, he'll say, thank you guys so much. He doesn't give a fuck about you. He doesn't care. They're like all this fake humbleness that you see from the people at the top, they're only saying it because it manipulates the peasants and it makes like the peasants feel kind of good, so they keep voting for you and everything. But every killer who in private, when I speak to them, they are arrogant as fuck. Like they want what you've got. They'll take whatever they want out of life. It's just the consistent theme that I've seen of everyone who makes like a few million a year at least. And so why would you not adopt that? Like why when the masses have got this idea of like, let's be humble and, lower your ego and everything. If it's not working for them, why the fuck would you want to adopt that? Why not triple your ego right now? Why not have this huge dissatisfaction thinking, yeah, I am the alpha male. I am this. Sounds so cringe. Fine. But just see what happens when you start thinking about that. See what happens when you wake up and you say that I'm destined to take over the world and that I'm an amazing man and I'm hardworking. I'm one of the best, most desirable men out there. See what happens. Are you going to get worse because of that and work less hard? Of course not. You're going to work harder because now you've set this identity. So in a way, it only serves you. It actually helps you more. Now, you sound like an asshole because people don't like weak people who have insecure thoughts don't like seeing someone else who has strong thoughts. Andrew Tate, he had this tweet once, which I really loved, where he said, they say that a person's mind is their greatest enemy. Perhaps for the worm. That was his exact phrase. And when I read that, I was like, that's so fucking true. If your mind is your own enemy and it's belittling you and pulling you down, it shows like you're not going to build the success, this fake humbleness. And you know, you can be humble in religion and think, oh yeah, well, God is above me. Yeah, sure. But that's not the type that we're talking here. No one's arguing against that. Yeah. We're talking about the way that you talk about yourself. Mm-hmm. Are you waking up thinking, I'm going to take over, I'm working super hard, I'm grinding? Because when you say those things and you believe those things, you do more of it. But a lot of people have got this idea that ego is a bad thing. And I've stepped into both sides, by the way. So I don't speak without experience. I haven't experienced ego death, but I feel like I've pushed fairly, like not far, but like, you know, like I've stepped very far into spirituality. I've went all into it for a good couple of months. I've done the psychedelic trips. I've done the whole breathwork thing. And then I've also went fully into this sort of egotistical, arrogant mode. And I think that if you're a masculine man, the egotistical, arrogant mode will serve you so much more. The ego death thing perhaps will make you happier and more at peace. If the world was a peaceful place, by all means, go ahead, but it's not. Because when you step into that spiritual, cute, hugging mode where, you know, I've killed, you know, my ego and everything, it's so cool. There's another guy over there who wants to fuck your wife. There's another guy over there who wants to take over your business. Attention, like in social media, is a zero-sum game. There's another guy who wants your subscribers, your viewers. And if you're in this cute little mode of like, yeah, you know, I'm not egotistical, I'm just like humble, ha ha ha. There's another guy who's looking at your channel right now thinking he wants your subscribers. And he's going to take them, right? Because he wakes up thinking he's going to take your subscribers, whereas you wake up thinking, you know, like we're all so humble. He's going to work harder than you. So if we were living in a completely peaceful world, it'd be lovely if we all had ego death and we all became super loving, but it's not like that. That like ego death and humbleness comes from a place of privilege up until you get fucked up by the other guy who is still in the hard grind mode.
Only got 1,200, so you can take them if you want. I'm joking. So, all right, your last Hamzaism. Let's come back to pull-ups. Instant gratification is stealing happiness from your future self.
Yeah.
How do you explain that?
Instant gratification is kind of like the activities that feel good right now, but make your life worse in the long run. Like, for example, eating the ice cream, watching the porn, playing video games. And what you're really doing is feeling good right now, but stealing that happiness from tomorrow instead. Delayed gratification is like doing these slow-ass pull-ups, even though they really hurt. But then this way you get bigger muscles tomorrow. It's like a gift to your future self. And then eventually, once you've built like a physique that's really impressive, you realize that my younger self did this for me, not for me today. That's a gift. And so now I have a lot of self-love because all I can think is that my younger self put in 5,000 workouts for this, for me.
Interesting. I haven't thought about it that way. Let's go on to expectation. How do you set expectations? Because people say expectation is the mother of all disappointment. And when people say, make them realistic, I don't like that phrase because my personal view of realistic and your personal view of realistic is completely different. It's just limiting beliefs, basically. That's what it comes down to.
What do you mean by expectations?
So if you set a goal for yourself, where do you set the bar, basically, right? And if you say I'm going to make this much amount in 6 months, or I'm going to put on this much muscle in 6 months, or whatever, how do you set your expectations? And if you don't hit them, then what do you do from there?
The practice of setting massive goals, like, you know, these 10x goals that are super inspiring. If I'm honest, it hasn't really served me that well. Like, I remember in March 2020 when I first like discovered self-improvement and I made my first ever habit tracker. I wrote goals for that week that I wanted to do 15 hours of work on my dropshipping website, and I wanted to meditate for this long, and I wanted to make like 7 YouTube videos, whatever. I did 30 minutes on the website. I remember writing it down, 0.5 out of 17 over the entire week. And I stayed stuck like that week on week on week on week. Because if you set the bar too high, It's kind of like we bring a beginner into the gym and we put 2 plates on bench press and tell him to hit that. It's like he might try it once without realizing how fucking heavy it is. It drops down, it injures him, we pull it back up, and then we tell him, try again. Don't lower the goal. Keep trying. Just, you know, just set a big goal, bro. Just keep pushing it, keep pushing it. It's like, it's ridiculous, right?
Yeah.
And then what's going to happen? He might injure himself. He's going to get demotivated. He's not getting any of the positive feedback loop, and he just quits. So I like to use the gym analogy because it really fits with life. So what should we do for this guy? Let's take all the weight off, give him the 20 kg barbell, let him practice with that, let him get good at that, let him do that 5 times a week. He's really got the skill now. And we add on like 2.5 each side. So how this relates to goal setting is I speak to so many young guys who are 17 years old, still brain dead, still inflamed because of the bullshit food that they eat. And they tell me that they want to make 10K later on this year, which I just think is ridiculous. You want to make a top 1% income in like 7 months. Are you a dick? Are you like a fucking, like, are you stupid as fuck? Like there's being egotistical, which is like, you know, it's kind of cool. I'm saying it's a good thing. And then there's just being brain dead and just not having the right expectations. The best entrepreneurs get there after like 1 year, 2 years. And I was already 23, 24 years old with a killer mindset. And it still took me over a year straight to get to 10K a month. But I'll meet 16-year-olds that are in school, like fucking, like, you know, they're just like, they live with their family. They've still been little kids. They still eat chicken nuggets. And they're talking about, I want to make 10K like in 3 months from now or something crazy. What happens? Do you think they even get close to 10K? They even get 7? No, of course not. Interestingly, they get worse results than the guy who says that he wants to make 1K by the end of the year. So for my exact goal setting, when I moved home in May 2020, my goal for December was £500 over that month. I made 600. So I surpassed the goal. Most of the people, when they hear that, wait, so in May, I went full-time in business and my goal was £500 in December over the month, right? It's a very slow progress, but I surpassed it, which meant that every single month, you know, the first goal was like £50, 150, whatever. When I surpassed them, I got like this positive momentum, which really carried me forward. It's kind of like if you hit what you thought was going to be your PR, you feel awesome. If we increase the weight just by 0.5 kg and you fail, you're going to feel so much worse. And what's better is like attempting the big thing and failing, or actually getting the positive feedback loop of the thing that's slightly smaller. 100% the slightly smaller thing, right? It's way better. That meant that in January, I made 1.2 thousand. In February, I made like 2,000. In June of 2021, I made my first 10,000, just over a year of being a full-time entrepreneur. So I set fairly unreasonable, let's say reasonably unreasonable expectations.
I like that.
And I was able to have the positive momentum of each milestone. What I would say is, especially for the young guys, you know, you're 18 years old or even younger, you're in school, your parents don't even believe in you, you don't even know things about like diet, you don't even know what inflammation really means for your brain. And so you haven't optimized your brain, your sleeping schedule's probably whack, you've never gotten sleep data before. It's like if you're at this point where like you don't even know the basics of fucking human health or focus, probably don't be saying that you're going to be making 10K in the next 6 months or so, because that's a very high number. Yeah. I'd say 6 months from now, if you make £1,000 or $1,000 over the 6th month, that'd be huge. That's still like life-changing for most people. And then 6 months from then, yeah, sure, 5K a month, 7K a month. 6 months from then, 10K a month. You have this progressive overload, and that positive momentum will really take you further. And I think so many young guys are missing that. Maybe it's a problem with ego. Maybe, like, to wrap it round, it's like maybe there's too much ego or unjustified ego. I think the reason why I'm egotistical and it served me well is because I can justify it.
Yeah,
of course I'm ego. Like, I'm egotistical, but look at my fucking biceps. I know that sounds cringe as fuck, but it's like I've done like fucking 5,000 workouts. I was a bitch. I was such a pussy for most of my life. I was raised by my mother, who literally raised me, like, along with my sister, as like a little pussy. I was a pussy for all my life. I've done like 5,000 to 10,000 brutal fucking workouts. So of course I'm egotistical, because I've proven that I can wake up at 5 a.m. every single day like I'm in the military and actually get things done. But when there's a 17-year-old who doesn't have that credibility and he sets a massive goal for himself, it's not going to work. I speak to so many young guys. I remember speaking to a friend of mine a few years ago, and his goal was to make 100,000 in a month in 6 months of business. And I almost felt like a dick for trying to convince him otherwise. But when I think about it, it's like, how stupid could you be to think that you're going to get 100,000 in 1 month, 6 months into business? A lot of kids actually believe that shit. There's being egotistical because you deserve it, because you can look in the mirror and think, fuck me, like I've actually really made progress. And then there's just being delusional because you just don't understand how the world works. And I think many kids, especially when they watch like entrepreneur content, they get quite delusional and they set goals that are far too high. It's the beginner who comes in and says, I'm going to go bench press 2 plates. No, just go bench 1 plate. Go bench the empty bar. Let's see how much you can get to the point of failure. And then let's increase that progressively by 2.5, like a little bit insignificantly every week.
I think progressive overload is the most important point you made there, just to wrap that up. It took me 3.5 years to make any money in business, right? It took us watching everyone around us making money and thinking, why is it not happening? And then I'm a big believer that it's nothing for a long time and then everything all at once, right? And that happens in seasons. You lose, you win, you flatline, you lose, you win. That's just the game. People don't understand it. But I will say that the bell curve of self-improvement, right? It feels flat for such a long time, and that's what demotivates people. But they don't realize it is incrementally increasing, slowly. And one thing that is partially to blame for this whole 10K a month thing, I think, is all the content on YouTube. And that's what I want to ask you now. You spoke yesterday in your video about your shift in your content to a different sort of audience. I purposely have never made those type of videos because I don't want to attract that type of audience. Maybe I'm tapping into them now, but I don't want to. I think, and that's no offense to them, I just feel like you become trapped in a box and you can't evolve as a creator. And you always said that people may look at you weird for changing your habits and routines and whatever, but it's a constant, infinite evolution. That's growth, right? So how have you been navigating trying to shift your content over to something else? And what is it actually you want to do now? What do you want to talk about? I know you said more entrepreneurship stuff, more high-level business stuff. And how do you get out of that box?
I think most people don't realize how brutal it is being an influencer, because our work days are so easy. We don't have this hard labor. We don't have like 10-hour work days. You can do, but like often to record a week's worth of content often only takes like 5 hours, 10 hours. That's it. Then you send it off to the editor. This guy, fine. Our hard work tasks are not physical, but they are psychological. It's that you have the judgment of hundreds, maybe thousands of people, which is completely unnatural for a human being. For example, I posted videos recently about my breakup that happened in January. And I probably have, 10,000 comments of people's positive or negative reinforcement on the situation, which is completely unheard of. There's no man before me in my bloodline ever had this much interaction with his decisions. So even though my job is easy as a YouTuber, psychologically it's extremely difficult because you are acutely aware of the judgments of other people and you are constantly anxious and paranoid whether or not you are liked in the tribe. This is why you see many creators who have like mental health breakdowns. We don't even work that hard, but it's just tough to deal with so many people's viewpoints. How do I deal with it? I won't lie to you, it's a struggle. When you see so many negative comments and you see people disagreeing, especially when it's about shit that like the truth about, like people will say, "Oh, you contradict yourself." I'll be like, "Yeah, of course. Like, why don't you? Like, I'm
always evolving.
You're on a self-improvement channel, dickhead. Like, what did you think I was just gonna say the same things as last year and last year? Like, if I did that, you'd say like, "Oh, Hamza's the same. He just repeats himself." When I say something new, they're like, "Oh, Hamza's contradicting himself." Like, what do you want me to do, dick? Like, obviously, like, and then this is the thing. It's like basically I can try and appeal to people, or I can just try and live my life as closely aligned to my mission and my purpose and the current layer of life that I'm on, and then just make videos from that point. And if that means that in some seasons I'll have the attention of the masses and in some seasons it'll die down, like you said, it ebbs and flows, it flatlines, then so be it. It's tough. I won't lie to you. It's like it is tough, but this is where a lot of the self-improvement comes from. It's like you stay stoic to it as best as you can.
Yeah, because you can become a caricature of yourself, right? I don't know if you have it now, but people may see you on the street and expect you to be I think you're pretty much the same as you are on camera, but maybe they think you're times 10 emphasized, and then you become stuck in that box.
You get captured by your audience.
Yeah.
That's like one of the hardest things to deal with. I was in Bali once and a friend asked me that he's someone who doesn't use the internet that much. He doesn't even have Instagram, whatever. And he asked me like a really intellectual question. He was like, it must be hard with the positive comments. And my friend replied like, oh yeah, like the hate comments are really bad. But he went, no, like the positive comments must be hard. And I told him like, you're the first person who said that. The hate comments are fine. Honestly, it's like, if you're not a pussy, it's like after you get 100, 1,000 hate comments, it's like, okay, whatever. It's another guy hating, whatever, who cares? Another guy's called me curry tate. It's like, nice. You know, it was funny the first time. Now it's just like, who cares, right?
Yeah.
The positive comments that reinforce you to be a certain kind of person that maybe was not natural for you or aligned to the real mission that you're going on to, now you're losing your soul.
Yeah.
Now you don't even know who the fuck you are anymore. Now imagine that 1,000 comments, 10,000 comments every single day for 5 years straight, how different life has become and your character has become compared to where you were supposed to actually go in life.
Yeah.
You've literally lost your soul, like your mission, your purpose in life for views, validation, and likes. And it is a business benefit, but it is, that's the hardest part by far, is trying to still stay as like who I'm supposed to be.
And I'm not sure if you know who Rick Rubin is. He's a music producer, worked with like a lot of big artists. He has a book called The Creative Act, one of my favorite books, right? And he said, put the audience last in whatever you do. Make it for yourself and don't worry about the rest, because your audience is always going to change. And there's a Japanese guy who said, betray your audience's expectations. And I think that's where you're at now.
Yeah, as you were saying that, there's something so pleasant about that message. Because the thing is, look, if I try and appeal to my audience, I'm just a slave. And the problem is, like, trying to appeal to people, it's kind of like trying to get a girl to like you. It doesn't actually work. So it's like you've defied your own authentic self. But you also often don't even get what you want because it comes across as very needy and fickle. And don't get me wrong, I've done this many times. I've made this mistake. But those times when you're just ruthlessly yourself and you just kind of know that some people won't like you and it's just part of the game. If anything, it's like, it is just business. You polarize them. What happens is you actually do get a fair amount of people who are completely aligned to you.
Yeah.
The hard part is when you've got a big audience to begin with, and then you've rapidly changed. Because then I still have like my old fans who many of them don't like me anymore because I don't make like top 9 no fat tips, and you know I've disagreed with advice that I used to follow. Like
that's the point, though. That's the whole point.
Exactly. And it gets, this is where it gets egotistical as fuck. It gets so hard when you've been in this space and you're in the best business model possible and you've become rich and successful and stuff, and like your audience haven't.
You no longer relate to them.
That's it. So it's like, if I go back home to my mother's house and I put on my sweaty old bathrobe and I'm in, you know, my little childhood bedroom, views go up because people are like, oh yes, old Hamza's back. I relate to him. Our parasocial relationship's back. When I go and actually live my life amongst the boys and I'm surrounded by wealth and pretty women, it's like, oh shit, he's changed. He's not like us. I miss the old Hamza. Like the amount of negative comments I got when I was in Bali and I rented out a podcast studio where like I was just wearing a shirt and I had like a professional mic, and the amount of people who were saying like Hamza's changed.
Oh, they're going to hate this, bro.
Yeah, and then, he's like, oh, I missed Hamza when he wasn't in a boxing gym. It's like, what the fuck's wrong with you, bro? Like, what do you want from me? Like, you've got to live your own authentic life, and you'll have this as well because you make phenomenal content. Honestly, you remind me of like old. I guess I'm being a dick now, like old Sneeko. Like you make very like deep messaging with beautiful videos. You know, mine are just scrappy. I just press record, whatever. And like, but I've always looked up to like Sneeko's old videos, and he misses them as well. But it's like, it's art. The amount of effort you guys put in for this, like the viewers don't even realize, it won't do it justice. But like, if we turn around right now, you've got the boys all lined up with like 3 different cameras, big ass light there and stuff. It took like an hour to set it all up. Yeah. You will build the success that you're hoping for. And the people who are watching right now on the first episode, they're your biggest fans. They're wholesome and everything. These same motherfuckers will be trying to pull you down like 2 years from now. Be like, oh, we missed the old guy. You know, you were asking Hamza questions in the boxing gym and stuff. Like, and then get fucked, bro.
Yeah, I appreciate that, man. And it's funny because I watched some of your content sporadically throughout the years, And it's only when I started working with these guys and my friend here, Ben, behind the camera, he told me that my first video I posted, it was very Hamza-esque. And I was like, who's this guy? So I checked him out and I was like, if I'm getting comparisons, then it's coming full circle. But yeah, no, I appreciate that, man.
Yeah.
One last point on, before we move on to training, is I want to go back to meditation and becoming present, cultivating awareness. I think that's a lost skill, a lost art. And because we live in a world of amusement, everything around us is amusement. Dubai is like the biggest amusement park in the world. We lost boredom. There's a guy called Vizzy Andre on Twitter who writes amazing stuff. And he wrote, because we've lost the ability to be bored, none of us is coming up with original creative ideas anymore. And obviously being bored forces you to become aware and become present. And there's something you said, I'm going to bring that up later actually. Let me just go back to meditation. Thinking about a future goal, saying one day I'm going to make it. Do you think that's a problem? Because sometimes it can take up so much of your current moment, it reduces the present moment as a means to an end. So it takes all the joy out of living, right? No matter what you achieve, it's never going to be good enough because the goalposts are always going to be moving forward. It's a perfect recipe for permanent dissatisfaction and non-fulfillment. And you're avoiding the here and now. But people don't realize the here and now is the only access point to that future that you want to build. And you're unconsciously creating conflict between where you are and where you want to be. How do you properly cultivate awareness? And how do you become present? How do you become aware without losing sight of the future that you want to build?
Have you read Man's Search for Meaning? So Viktor Frankl was the author, and he was sent to the Holocaust camps. And he started to investigate why certain people survived and why others died. What he found was it was not the optimists or the positive thinkers who survived, but the men with purpose. Life is not supposed to be like a conflictless state where we're at peace and we're present. Especially for men, we are supposed to have something that's worth struggling for. If I could draw masculinity as like a little picture for you, what I would do is I'd write the letter A, I'd have an arrow, and I'd write the letter B. That's masculinity in a nutshell. The opposite of that is happiness, contentment, and enlightenment, where you are just fine existing as you are right now. I've done both, so I'll tell you from my experience, and I really urge everyone to go and experience for themselves and just see what happens. I've done the goal striving, where I have a lot of desire, and a lot of that comes from dissatisfaction, so you're not happy with life right now. And I've also done the more enlightenment periods where I stop having desires, stop having goals, and I kind of enjoy the present moment, and I just kind of work when, it feels right to do so. That enlightenment, non-desire season was boring as fuck. So boring that I actually felt kind of depressed. I didn't have something to struggle for. I didn't have a big meaning, big mission, big purpose. I feel like if you're a man with like lower testosterone or less ambition, you might be fine with that, and you might want to go to Thailand or Bali and sit around and work for 1 hour a day. I've tried it multiple times. I've tried it over about 6 months over the last few years, and I've just felt kind of depressed. These days, I feel so happy and so fulfilled, even though my day is constant, fast. It's with a lot of aggression. There's a lot of dissatisfaction. Got to do this thing. Got to do this thing. Got to do this thing. I've actually enjoyed it a lot, like so much. This is probably the happiest and most fun I've had in my entire life, because there's been something to struggle for. There's been something to strive for. I actually think desire is cool as fuck. I know that religions like Buddhism view desire as a negative thing, because desire is the opposite of enlightenment. Enlightenment is basically a state of no desire, no change that we want. But I believe that man is supposed to have a desire. Your desire is basically what your season of life is. It's what we're currently aligning to. So for most people, it's like the desire is to get out of school or to make money or to build a physique. And these things give you a lot of zest for life. because we've got to the point now where I don't believe you can actually go and have that spiritual life anymore, because there's too many things that can pull your attention. So before, let's say, before technology, you could reach that state of enlightenment because you could sit there and meditate, and maybe it'd be the best case scenario.
Boredom.
Nowadays, what's really actually happening, you know, to the people in Bali and Thailand who are so spiritual, they're still spending 6 hours a day looking at Instagram reels.
Yeah,
they're still doing all that shit. They're taking a bunch of fucking psychedelics and mushrooms and whatever. So it's like, there's a phrase I have, which is winners versus huggers. I've been both. I've been a winner and I've been a hugger. A hugger is like the enlightenment Bali person and stuff, and winners like the guy who's chasing material success. People really look down upon the material success. Oh, you're materialistic. And I have as well. And you know, I don't blame people who have a negative perception. But having experienced both, I'll tell you, the materialistic desire is far more fun. Being sat around, it's like, are you a dickhead? Like, your parents are still working jobs that they don't like, and you're like sat around, like, you know, like hugging people and stuff. And that stuff's cute, and it's like, it's nice for bonding. It's good for your mental health. By all means, go ahead and go to like some retreat in Bali for a few weeks to learn how to breathe properly. That's awesome. But to live your life like that with no goals, no striving, it's just boring as fuck. And if anything, it's selfish as fuck, and it comes from a place of privilege and of just selfishness and greed, of like, you just want to sit there and feel something whilst you do your cute little breathwork thing whilst your mother works full time. Like, you've got to be a fucking idiot, like a young man. If you've retired everyone and there's nothing else for you to do and the world is a happy place, by all means, go ahead and fucking take your mushrooms and psychedelics, like I have done many times. But now when I look back at those moments, like there was one moment in Bali when I was lying down in the middle of the villa with like a fucking beanbag over my eyes. I took mushrooms with this guy like sat next to me, like, you know, playing music and saying like, surrender. It hit, and I was like, whoa, this is gay as fuck. Like, what the fuck am I? My mum would be so disappointed. My dad was still fucking working full time. What a fucking dickhead. I'm lying on the floor, like, you know, like enjoying myself. Haha, you know, presence is key and shit. Get to fucking work. You're a young man. You're supposed to be like a fighting age young man full of testosterone and ambition to take over the world. You're not done working hard right now. Now you want to take like a little bit of time off to do some breath work and do some meditation, by all means. But to give up your big goal, which is financial freedom, physical freedom, location free, all of these like freedoms that the masculine craves, to be in this state of non-desire is fucking pathetic. I think we need to have more desire. Now, a lot of that will sound like materialistic desire. You know, I want more subscribers, more money, but it's not actually about those things. We all inherently know this, that once we achieve the big goal, like the subscribers, we're not going to feel any difference. It was not about the subscribers, the car, the watch, or any of that. It was about the man that you have to become to get to that point. It isn't that I wake up thinking, oh, well, my biceps this big. It's that I had to fucking do 1,000 curls and it really hurt, but I kept on showing up to do them anyway. So that now anytime I walk past the mirror, I'm reminded that younger me did this for me. That's what the benefit is. That's why the desire was so valuable. Imagine if the one thing we changed about me right now was just the physique and I was just like skinny fat. Imagine how different, if that was the one thing, how different I would be, how much less of an impact I would have had on the world if I said the exact same things in the same way, but I just wasn't jacked. And that's also bearing in mind that if I said the same things in the same way, which I wouldn't have if I didn't have this level of like self-reassurance. So I think a young man should have a huge goal that he strives for 24/7 non-stop, something that you even lose sleep for, because it gives your life meaning and direction. When you're 80 years old, you're not going to look back to those moments where you laid around with the guy whispering in your ear, surrender, surrender. You're not going to think back to those moments. You're not going to think back to the moments where you just sat on the couch and watched shit. You're going to think back to the times, the hardest periods of your life where you conquered, where you had a big goal and you really fucking worked hard for it. Even if you failed, like you sign up for a Muay Thai fight in the future and you lose, guarantee on your deathbed you'll still smile thinking about that time. And compare that now to like, oh, well, you know, I don't even want to become a fighter anyway because I don't even care about the trophy. That's gay as fuck. It's like, care about the fucking trophy, not because the trophy is going to change your life, but because that 4-month fight camp is going to be a significant moment of purpose and meaning for you, and it's going to make you into a amazing man. That, let's say you have children in the future, you're telling them these lessons and you remember what this hardship was like in this season. The lessons that you teach to others and the wisdom that you could bestow onto the world is just better compared to just being sat around and learning no lessons and having no striving.
I think I agree with you. There's again something Naval said was, yeah, the Buddha was enlightened, but he came from a rich family, so let's get you rich first and then you can have enlightenment, right? And the desire I'm talking about is more sense fulfillment, right? The stronger your desire, the stronger your attachment to an object or a material item, the more you're creating resistance between you and that thing as well. I agree. I don't think there's anything wrong with desire, having desire, and trying to become your best self and using these things as milestones. But when your whole being becomes centered around that, I think that does become a bit of a issue with fulfillment. Because like you said, you know from the get-go that you want to have a Lamborghini and you work all your life towards it, but you know now that it's not going to fulfill me. But most people don't. And that's the side of desire I was kind of pointing to. But as a whole, what you said, I completely agree with. And
just quickly, as you were saying that, it was about the chase of fulfillments. I couldn't help but to think about the greatest men of history, the conquerors, the emperors. I don't think we're supposed to feel good most of the time as men. If this huge desire, this need, like you said, it's almost like we're needy for this moment. If that doesn't feel good, we don't want to experience it again. It's like the negative emotion we don't want to experience because there's this lack that we're realizing right now. But that dissatisfaction is what causes the gain. It's what causes you to actually work super hard to go and achieve the thing. So even though what I'm saying doesn't feel good, it actually pushes you towards the impact that you want it to have.
Yeah.
On a small scale, it's like, how much money you want to make and cute things like subscribers, whatever. But soon, like once you've got your needs met, like kind of how Naval says, that's when your purpose layer goes from your own needs to the needs of others. And imagine if like I feel dissatisfied because there's so much pain for young men, and that dissatisfaction causes me to work harder to solve those problems. I'll spend most of my life in a feeling state of negative emotions, which sounds like a bad thing, but the impact that it then has on other people in a weird way makes me more fulfilled. It's not about the emotions. I actually think the men should probably feel negative, like, I don't know, 70 to 80, 90% of the time, because that's where the drive comes from. If you just feel like kind of good all the time, it's like you're not going to grind as hard, right? You can get to a point of spirituality where you really work hard as an act of love for the world. But I don't think I'm there yet. I don't think most people are. We really do things to run away from pain more than we do to actually run towards pleasure. So why not just utilize that? If there's a gap in your life right now from where you are to where you want to get to with your physique, your money, your relationships, why not feel that pain, that lack right now, and have that as your burning desire to move forward?
Fair. Let's speak to your new audience, because you're, trying to move it to the high level business people. On that point, let's say they've surpassed the goals that they thought that were going to fulfill them, and now they're feeling empty. Now they don't know what to desire. There's an article I posted the other day about the founder of MVMT, which is a watch brand. He sold it for like $60 million or something, right? And he wrote this long Reddit article talking about, I'm 31, I have millions of dollars in the bank, but I've never been more depressed. What would you say to those people? Because that's going to be your new audience, I feel like.
Oh yeah, it's completely normal. It's like, again, it was not the achievements and the obtaining the thing. Like people should know this now because of how many stories there are out there. Like every great entrepreneur will tell you the moment he sold his business was the most boring day ever. It's like you had something that you enjoyed working hard on. You strive, right?
About
you went
build.
A to B. Life as a man is supposed to be A to B, A to B, A to B. The reason why someone feels depressed once they've got the achievement is like they got to B and then just stopped. It's like, okay, well, what's the next A to B? So you can go spend, like, this is just the sort of false expectations people have, is like, oh, I'll make the money, then I'll kind of enjoy my life and I'll sit around. No, you fucking won't. That'd be boring as fuck.
Yeah.
It's like, no matter, like, even if you make the money, even if you were a billionaire, trillionaire, you'd still have some kind of work task in the day. Maybe it'd be full-time fighting. Maybe it'd be comedy and entertaining people, but you'd have some kind of grind. Of course you would. Yeah. Like, life is not meant to be just you consuming. This is why most people feel so depressed, because it's like they don't have this A to B. They just consume and watch shit and just waste away. For this entrepreneur, it's like, if he's an intelligent person, he should have known this was coming to begin with. It's so common now that it's like, I feel like there's no excuses for this. How did you not hear of stories of other entrepreneurs? Yeah. When you sell your business and you've been working super hard on this A to B mode, start thinking about what the next thing is. This is just like we peel back layers of our purpose for whatever the desire is right now. We want this financial freedom, or we want this woman, or whatever it is. The moment we've achieved that same thing is not going to give us happiness. Like, we've got the girl now, even though we struggled for so long, we've got the girl. We're not just going to be happy 24/7. Or we struggled in this business. Now we sold the business for 20 million. We're not just going to be happy with the 20 million. It doesn't even fucking mean anything. Now it's like, well, what's the next thing? We've checked off that outer layer. Now there's an inner layer, one level ahead. So let's say for this guy, he's now financially free. The next thing he should think is like, okay, well, what other A to B do I want to get to? I make a fuck ton of money. It's really helped me. Maybe I want to help other people make money as well because of how much it's helped me. So he starts to make podcasts where he's just giving education and mindset advice to other young entrepreneurs. And suddenly that becomes his next A to B. He wants to help 10,000, 100,000, 1 million young entrepreneurs because they can then free their family. That sounds awesome. And he's striving again and he's working super hard again.
Yeah.
At some point in the future, he loses all of the desire again. He loses all of the enjoyment. He's completed this evolution of himself. Now he needs to do what I'm amazing at, which is fucking contradict everything he's just said and say, well, actually, guys, you know what? All of that was just because let's completely change up again.
Yeah, that's a good point. I think if you're in the build, then if anyone's in the build right now, then always a reminder to slow down because one day you will probably miss this part. Perspective, right?
Yeah.
You're currently living at least one of the prayers that you used to pray. This isn't a Hamzaism. This is the next part. I saw in a video that you retired your parents.
Yeah.
First of all, congrats on that.
Yeah, thank you, bro.
Amazing achievement.
Thank you, bro.
How do you look beyond that? Because that's every young man's dream, I feel like, to retire their parents. But then what do you do beyond that? And what's the importance of having purpose beyond that?
Yeah. It's kind of like you start with your cup and you fill up your cup, it gets to the top, it starts overflowing. And when it does overflow, then you want to just fill up the cups of other people.
Right.
So you first do that with your loved ones, the people who are closest to you. And once you've helped them enough, then you start to fill up the cups of the wider community that you care about. You start thinking about what kind of people you want to impact, that you can impact. And so for me, it was young men.
Love that. All right. One of the topics you're most famous for is degeneracy.
Yeah.
When a man has no purpose, he seeks pleasure in distractions.
Yeah.
That's one of my favorite quotes. How do you help young people navigate that? Because it's so easy to get lost in degeneracy in ways that they're not even conscious of.
Yeah. When you have lots of free time and no big mission to work on, then you go to the closest stimulation. You go to porn, video games, junk food, drugs, casual sex. When you have something that's bigger than you, like for example, a big mission, you want to help young men, you want to help the kids in Palestine, you want to help, I don't know, Muslims, you want to help whatever. At that point, it's like you have an extra pull away from the degenerate bad habits. You can't sit down and watch porn anymore because your inner critic is now far too loud telling you, no, come on, there's people to help. Yeah. Without that purpose, without that mission, it's very easy to just waste time playing video games. This is why I think men should have that A to B desire, if not just for yourself, but then for the kind of impact that you want to have on the world.
Love that. And last point, because we're fucking out of time. What are some objective truths to you? Things that you think the whole world should agree with?
Objective truths that everyone should follow. Health is key. There's not many things I could say that every single person should agree on. Depends what season of life you're on. But one thing I can say for certain is when your health dips, no matter what you're trying to achieve, no matter what season of life you're on, you're going to be worse.
A healthy man wants 1,000 things and a sick man only wants one.
Exactly, yeah. Awesome quote.
Cool. We'll leave it there because of time. But, brother.
Thank you.
I like that. Another Jeffrey.
Thank you for having me.
Appreciate it, man.
That was some boys.
Cool. Appreciate you tuning in for episode 1. That was one of many. Please subscribe. I got bigger and better guests. Not that he's less, but come in on the show. Trying to aim to drop once a month. So yeah, subscribe below and let me know your thoughts. Also join my newsletter. A lot of gems that we spoke about in there I've already mentioned. So yeah, enjoying Adonis School.
That's over there.
All right. Nice one.